I think Pete Alonso is a little too inconsistent for my taste to be in that 3 spot or really maybe even the 4 spot for a team that, has a chance to do big things this year. But he's going to be reliable enough where you're going to get production. Come on, we've watched him stroll to home plate 4,000 times in his Mets career and his plate appearances, and his OPS is slightly over 850. Now, there's been some fluctuations. There's been some down points. There's been some red-hot points. I'm going to ride Pete a little bit here in that 3-hole, and I'm going to give him a chance to fly. And if I don't see what I want to see, then he's not the 3-hitter. It's that simple.
Yeah, I know, but it is a big thing to have him hitting behind Soto. The Mets designed it this way, and I still think that either the Mets or fans, still people view Pete, I don't want to say on the level of Judge, because you're right, that was the conversation. That's laughable. It's not Pete's fault, but nobody's on that level. I think Soto could be on that level, but whatever. Outside of that, it's Aaron Judge. He's the best player that we've ever seen. But is Pete a true superstar in the game? I still don't feel that when he comes to the plate. I still have more confidence in Mark Vientos than I do Pete Alonso. Now, last night, and it wasn't just Pete, it was Nimmo getting the job done as well. I know the game was out of hand at that point, but still a 2-run homer for Nimmo, which is a good sign. In that moment, Soto walks, setting the stage. I'm thinking, okay, here we go. It's early. I need to see that he can be some protection for Soto, at least early on, to make Soto feel good about who's hitting behind him, to doubt opposing pitchers from maybe pitching around Soto in certain spots. Now, will this stick? I have my doubts. Will Pete be the 3-hitter moving forward and win a World Series with this team? I have my doubts. I do like him better in the 5 spot, but last night he had to come through in that spot, and he did. So I'm still figuring out what he is. I don't believe he's a star, but they're telling you that they believe he could be a star based on his past power numbers and based on where they're putting him in the order behind Juan Soto.
I also think it's very fluid. I know that seems like the easy way out. There is no way that Mendy's married to Pete Alonso batting third for this entire season. He's just not, nor should he be. Listen, I think, and this also applied to some of the early season stories that you're talking about, like, what kind of start will Bellinger have? What about some of the young Yankee hitters? I think anytime you could dispel a narrative, right, early, and get some positive flow. Now, I know Lindor didn't play last night, but Lindor's tough starts, Vientos 2.0, Pete in the 3 spot. I don't think you overstate the home run last night, but I don't think you ignore it.
Right.
I think that these are things that can almost, you can speak and hit your way into existence. I mean, think about this, Al. If we're sitting here in 3 weeks and Pete Alonso's got 2 home runs with 9 RBIs and he's hitting 201 and Soto's hitting 330, the conversation is, all right, when, not if, when does Mendoza make the move? So I think it keeps the vultures at bay a little bit. It gives Pete a little bit of confidence. It gives the Mets offense a little bit of confidence, and he just rolled into another night and beat a bad team tonight. Go get him.
And I love that point. And like I said, because even though it's 3 or 4 games, if Alonso didn't come through last night in that spot,
you know what we're doing?
Today the narrative would be, certainly from me, I'd be saying, see, I can't watch. I said it yesterday, I can't watch him in the 3 spot. I can't do it anymore. So at least he's buying some time here, and okay, let's see what he's made of. The first real test, now again, different pitching. Cal Quantrill's exhausted versus the Astros, good pitching. Eventually it's going to have to happen against the best pitching for Pete Alonso to really be that legitimate star and protection for Juan Soto, where I have no doubts about Lindor against the best pitching, or Soto certainly, or even Vientos. I still do have question marks about Pete Alonso, and it's nothing personal. I love Pete. I'm happy for Pete. Good for him to come through. There's still just a feel that I have watching him in those spots where I was more, I don't want to say shocked last night, because that situation, BT, you get ahead in the count, bases loaded, the guy's gassed. Like, if you don't do it there, who are you doing it against? But I'm still more, I just don't trust that he's going to get it done, even with the monster numbers that he's put up in his career.
I think he's going to have a big season, you know that. But there's a lot of variables with the Mets team, which is why I stopped short of stamping them guaranteed 90-plus wins. There's some things that I want to happen, that I want to see happen and really kind of define themselves. And Pete is one of them. I mentioned, obviously, not so much Lindor with the cold starts, because eventually he's just going to get going here. Unless the back is an issue, which I don't even want to throw that in now. But
is that something?
I was thinking about that. I mean,
but he's always having bad starts. So
true. That's why I'm not saying that there's a correlation to that. But
how many times are we going to get fooled? He does the same thing every year.
Yes.
Slow start, take off like an MVP. Slow start, take. So I'm not getting fooled this time.
I'm not either. But not every year is Lindor taking injections to get through the end of the season like he did a year ago. Again, I don't even want to throw that as a curveball now. It's early. He just had another child. God bless. He was in uniform last night. Got a chance to watch his Mets.
He probably would have played if they would have needed him.
He wanted. He wanted to play. He's an absolute gamer. The only problem or question that I have for the Mets is that when I look at the great teams or the perceived heavyweights, and the Braves haven't won a game yet, so it's early. They're 0-5. They lost again. Jeez. But is there a guarantee, and this ties into Pete, is there a guaranteed protection for Soto? And there's not. There's possibilities, there's variables, there's options, but you don't say that about the Dodgers. I don't know. You didn't say that about the Yankees a year ago when you had the Soto-Judge dynamic. I don't think that you say that about the Phillies. That's the one, even maybe more than the Mets pitching.
Agreed 100%.
They're going to get an ace at some point. I need to know if Pete's the real deal. And I don't like him at 3. I've said that for forever. And you like him, you're rooting for him, but you don't fully trust him, nor do I. Listen, I mean, the pressure's big. The pressure's on Pete. There's no doubt about it.
BT, I think you just nailed it. Even more important than the pitching, which is remarkable to think. For the second straight year going into the season, we're all like, I don't know about the rotation. Last year more vehemently, but then they proved that they can get it done. So this year it's like, I don't love the starting pitching on paper. It looks awful, but you have to trust them until proven otherwise. And again, now, it's not even a full time through the rotation. Senga will go tonight to complete it. But of all the other question marks in there, Tyler McGill looked pretty darn good in Houston against a good Astros team. Same thing with Griffin Canning. Peterson again last night. So I do think that, and they'll probably add a pitcher, if not a big name. Andy Martino's mentioned this on SNY yesterday. Dylan Cease. I mean, the Mets are going to be involved in.
They're making a trade for a big arm, so there's no doubt.
Which to me will be the difference in October, if not in the regular season. But yeah, my biggest concern about this team is the protection for Juan Soto. And that right now is on Alonso and Nimmo. We've seen these two guys. They have been part of the Mets core for years. And the Mets haven't gotten over that hump. And those guys in particular, I mean, Pete had some big home runs, sure, but there hasn't been the consistent
No, there hasn't been
performance from those guys that is expected. So that's the biggest question mark. And last night, at least early on, and I thought a early season barometer, Alonso answered the bell.
It's a good sign. We'll get the calls here. See, to me, Nimmo's not an option at all. Like, you look at those dynamics around the league of the great, truly elite players, the Freemans, the Bettses, the Judges, the Otanis, the Gunnar Hendersons, the Witts, the Lindors, the Sotos, like those kind of players, right? To me, there is no way, I'm not saying for a week or so, there is no way Nimmo could be the long-term answer as the guy behind Juan Soto.
But he is going to hit cleanup more often than not.
I don't even like that. I don't like that. I like Nimmo as a player. I think he's completely miscast as a 4 guy, even a 5. I think he's more of a 6 guy for a really good team, maybe even 7.
Pete 5,
for a dominant,
Pete 5, Nimmo 6.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but then you need 3, 4. And also, remember, we've had this conversation with Boone, opening day right to his. Like, the lineups are ever changing. They're not the same as they were anymore. So, is Nimmo a true 4 hitter? No, but neither Goldschmidt or Wells aren't true leadoff hitters.
Yeah.
But it works. And the only reason why Nimmo's hitting cleanup is not because of his power. It's because of his lefty bat.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning against a righty, you're going to have Nimmo in there to split up Vientos and Alonso. So that's where I say that if Alonso doesn't get it done, or let's say they move Vientos to the 3-0, he doesn't get it done, Nimmo's going to have to be the next guy to clean up Lindor and Soto on the bases.
It's going to be interesting. Either way, hey, listen, I know we're almost treating this like an October at bat. Good for Pete. He needed it.
Yeah.
It's early. Now maybe he's got a free mind, and he just goes back to swatting 40 bombs. We'll see.
BT and Sal on the Fan, our friends at Town Fair Tire remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Joe is in Long Beach. What's up, Joe?
Hey, how you guys doing? Big fan of the show.
Thanks. What's up?
Hey, Joe.
So two quick things. Like the Pete Alonso situation, it just seems like he's just kind of like I mean, actually seeing him drive the ball to right center field, that's like I feel like when he's at his best. Also, I just feel like, but on the other side of stuff, like I just think he's kind of an all or nothing kind of product right there, and that's what he just kind of turned into. I don't know what it is with his average over his last couple of years in the league, and then just slowly going down. It just seems like, I don't know if he's just trying to find the fences more. I don't know what it is. Another thing I noticed with him was he has this new kind of one-handed follow-through swing that looks kind of ugly when he really does make himself look bad on pitches. That like it just kind of came up like over the last year. I'm not obviously hitting pro or anything like that, but it's just something I picked up on or noticed. But and also too, when you guys talk about protection, I don't know if you guys noticed so far in the season, but Vientos is really looking like a stud. Like his at bats last night, ripping another double, and he just missed hooking another homer. Like what, 5-6 feet outside the foul.
Joe, I agree.
Ball.
I mean, who do you? Let's just ask flat out. Who do you have more confidence in at the plate, Vientos or Alonso?
So far this year, I probably would have to.
Last year too.
In general, I mean, yeah, last year too.
Oh, yeah, well, especially in a bigger spot, I definitely would have to say Vientos, as sad that is to say so early in his career.
It's not sad, and thank you for the call. It's a good thing to have a guy like Vientos. I just think he profiles, I trust him more than I do Pete. Pete's got the resume. Pete's got the power that he's produced since he's been in the big leagues. There's something about Vientos that he has that confidence and attitude. He's gotten the job done. Now, as a young player, he's got to prove himself as well. But I just think the Mets' best three hitters, Lindor, Soto, Vientos, should be in that order like that. And they'd probably benefit from having Pete down a little bit if you have Nimmo break them up. Either way, if Alonso continues to produce, he's not going to get moved. But I trust Vientos more so than Pete. And there is something about Pete, even with the Grand Slam,
I'm with you. Listen.
And you think he's going to have a bigger year than I do?
I do. I think he's going to have 40-ish home runs. I do. I'm on the record with that. But there's no doubt that Pete Alonso has gotten away from his approach. And again, I'm not a hitting coach either, so I'm going to stay in my lane. But, there's a reason why Pete hit 270, 260, 270 first couple of years. He was a foul pole to foul pole hitter, which means he had no issue letting that ball get deep and bang it the other way, whether it's a double or a home run or a sharp single to right field. And when you do that, you are just simply less vulnerable to strikeouts and, kind of try to pull the outside pitch and rolling things over and a lot of empty at-bats. I think what's crept into Pete's game is there's been a lot more empty at-bats over the years. I don't know. I'm sure that he's aware of trying to get back to the old approach, but I think it's been about 2 years since he's had that old approach, and if he hasn't found it yet, there's no guarantee that he rediscovers what it was. Honestly, I mean, he might be a 235, 240 hitter. He's Paul Bunyan, so when he rides into one, he is going to bang a baseball as far as anybody, maybe with the exception of Judge, in all the base, and maybe Ohtani. His power is prolific. It is raw. It is strong. It is country strong. That doesn't mean that he's the guy that you want up there with 2 on and 2 out and down a run.
Correct. And it is important to note, we've gone over the numbers many times before, but it is important to note, me personally, I can't speak for everybody else, and maybe some people still love Pete Alonso the way they did when they came up. We've had this conversation for many years. Where it started to turn for me was in 2023. Pete Alonso, his first year, 260 and 53 homers. That's a beast of a player. And to your point, my favorite thing about him was that it was Piazza-like, obviously not hitting 320.
Yeah. I mean, Mike would hit 330 with the Dodgers.
But in today's day and age, hitting 260 and hitting 50 home runs, that's a big freaking deal. But he could go to right field. He could get a base hit. He was a good hitter. Forget the pandemic year. 262 after that. For a guy that hits 40 home runs and you're hitting 262, that's saying something. 2022, 40 homers, 131 ribbies, 271 batting average. This is Pete Alonso. That is star-type production. Since then, the 217 batting average, and everybody overlooks it and says, well, you have 46 home runs. That's great, but what made Pete special in my mind was that the homers and the ribbies were there along with the batting average. You go from 271 to 217. That's eye-opening in a negative way for me. And since that year in 2023, he has not been the same. So I loved Pete prior to the dip in 2023, and now he hasn't been the same, and we're in 2025.
I'm with you. And it's not an overreaction to one down year. That seems to be more of the trend. That seems to be the hitter that he's, for some reason, morphed into.
And remember, BT, last year, everybody thought that the year prior, 2023, was the outlier, right? Okay, well, it was 1 year where we had a down year as far as the average. Then we watched last year, and even though it was 34 and 88, for Pete, that's not good, and it was unimpactful, and the batting average was 240. So average came up a little bit, but not good enough.
I agree.
The homers weren't good enough. The ribbies weren't.
We were on him all year for a reason.
Correct. So now it's 2 years.
Yeah.
So now this year it's like, well, which Pete Alonso is it? Is he more what we've seen the last 2 years, which is okay if you're getting the power numbers and ribbies, or is he going to get back to what he was before, meaning 260 or higher, 35 or higher, 100 or higher? We're still, that's kind of where I still don't know which one it is. I lean toward it's more the last 2 years than it is the first 4 years.
So do I. But the reason why I think he'll have a big year is really because of Soto. I mean, he's going to get up there. The 88, 89 ribbies, whatever it was, RBIs, we could talk about, a lot of different stats in baseball, maybe batting average, but antiquated, OPS, a great barometer, OPS plus, maybe even better, blah, blah, blah. We know all the numbers, right? To me, if guys really aren't on in front of you, the RBI total is not going to be great. There's a reason why Don Mattingly had 145 RBIs and won the MVP in 85, because Ricky Henderson was the leadoff man, and Willie was batting second, and before you knew it, you look up, Ricky's on third base, you don't get a base hit, even a sac fly gets an RBI. So I didn't crush Pete for the lowish RBI total, but here's a sobering statement, and this is going to be something that the Met fans going to have to juggle for the next 2 years, okay? The Mets are trying to get to and win a World Series with a guy who is in as prominent a spot in the lineup as you can be, who 90+% will not even be here in 2 years. There is a reason why they structured the contract the way they did. He's a declining player, and that doesn't mean he can't contribute. That doesn't mean he can't have some big moments. Mets would have had that run if he doesn't take Devin Williams deep. I get it, respect. But they are trying to thread this needle, as you say, of winning big now with Lindor in his prime and first year of Soto, when I think if you could take away the emotion, I think we all know, big picture, Pete's not going to be here for long.
John is calling from Jackson, New Jersey. What's up, John?
Hey, bud.
Hi, guys. Big fan of The Fan, and you guys are must-listen radio, just like Mike and Chris when they first came on. So I'm an everyday listener.
We appreciate that very much. Thank you.
So I'm a Met fan. I can't understand what you guys are baseball fans. You watch all the time. How do you not see that Pete's dip in average is because they banned the shift? He used to bang a ball through the right side to get an RBI all the time. So since they banned the shift, his averages dip. And
make an adjustment.
But he still leads the league in RBI since 2019, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer. We're watching a Hall of Famer backing up Soto.
John, let me ask you a question, John. Hold on, John. I listen, I love the passion. So I really do. I think some things you say are true. I think some things you're kind of holding on to the past and applying it to now, which I don't think is applicable to Pete in 2025. But besides that, you just said he's a Hall of Famer. Okay. When you watch Pete Alonso now, do you feel like you're watching a great player? Simple question, yes or no?
Yes.
All right,
because
I disagree.
If you go back to the playoffs last year, he made that adjustment. Started going to the opposite field. The big home run against Milwaukee. He's a great opposite field hitter. If he was
a great opposite. And if he can rediscover that,
this year.
Yeah, no, John.
Please go back to this call in October. He's going to win MVP.
MVP of what?
Of the National League.
John, and thank you for the call. I respect the. Hey, look, that's a bold prediction. We like bold predictions and strong opinion.
It's a bit strong. What are the odds for that?
MVP.
Hold on, I'm just looking at. I know. And again, I don't even want to really muddy the waters with is Pete a Hall of Famer? That's almost so lazy. And I don't mean that John was lazy. It was a point of reference for him. But just use your eyes, man. Trust your baseball instincts. You watch certain players, you're like, and I know that it's been blurred over the years with the Harold Baineses and some other players who have gotten in. Does Pete Alonso look like a great player? Now, that doesn't mean that he can't have an impactful season. I believe that he will.
Right.
But a great player right now, there's no way.
And the excuse about the shift, to me, is so lame and pathetic. If you're a good hitter, you will hit for a high average. Not that anybody wants to hear it, but I will just add that Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who's been a little bit up and down in his career, but is a 288 lifetime hitter. Last year, where the banning of the shift was in effect, Vlad hit 323. So, I mean, it's not, if Pete were a good hitter, the shift wouldn't matter. Come on, square it up, hit it hard, hit it where they're not. End of story.
You see the ball, hit the ball. I'm looking at his 2023 hit spray chart on Savant. Just home runs. I won't bore you with all the other stuff. So from dead center to the right field foul pole, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15. I did that quick, so maybe I'm 16 or 17 from center field to the foul pole in right field. That's 2023. Last year, and I know it dipped a lot. I don't have here's the numbers. From center field right, I got 5. I got 1, 2, 3, 6. and that includes the home run off Devin Williams in the postseason to right center. Now, that is a big change in philosophy. Doesn't mean that he can't get back to it, but that's hard to do. Like, do you think Steph Curry totally changes his jump shot?
No.
There's no guarantee that it works.
I would bet that it's more likely Pete Alonso fails to make the All-Star team than wins an MVP.
I would agree. I would agree with you.
MVP.
We're not trying to diss the guy. He is not an MVP type of player. There's no way.
I think he was projecting that early on in his career.
Yeah, I didn't dispute that a couple of years ago because he earned that. He's a different player.
He's not even the third best player on the team.
And no one's saying you can't win with him at a prominent spot. What we're saying, if you just tuned in, I know it's the Marlins, I know it's early, but, Sal's a Mets guy, but me as a baseball guy as well, I think we kind of needed to see, and you don't want this thing bleeding into mid-April, late April, where you're like, all right, when are you putting Vientos 3? It's a good starting point. Let's see if you can continue riding it here.
We'll continue the conversation when we come back. 888-808-109. I have a little beef with somebody at the station. We'll get into that.
What else is new? Jeez, what a surprise.
It pertains to Alonso. We'll get to that when we come back. Also working some football with the Jets and Giants as well later on. 888-808-1019. BT and Sal on the Fan.